What is your favorite paradox? Camus regards the absurd as a paradox. Humans are constantly driven to seek meaning in a world that doesn't appear to have any. There are a lot of paradoxes that are interesting, but this is the one that makes people feel bad. This sentence is false. True. I'll go, true. Yeah, that was easy. I'll be honest, I might have heard that one before, though. Sort of cheating. Simple, elegant, and a great introduction to people who is not familiar with paradoxes. The one where you can decompose a sphere and end up with two spheres of the same size. Bannock Tarski. Vsauce has a really good high-level overview of this, although it's a bit of a long video. Now hear me out. Decompose those spheres again, and reassemble into 4 spheres. Repeat until you have enough spheres to make a boat to sail away from my problems. It's only paradoxical because you expect it to behave like physical things composed of quanta. No, there's none of that physical laws nonsense with math. The bootstrap paradox. You receive a strange machine and a note that says, "This is a time machine, recreate the time machine and send the machine back in time to the day you received it." Today, bewildered, you set to work to recreate the time machine. When you are done and have tested it, you send the original machine and the note back in time to the day you received it. If you didn't create the machine you received from yourself, where did it come from? I feel like the best way to explain this is with a Back to the Future example. At the high school dance, Marty played the song "Johnny Be Good," which he learned from the original singer, Chuck Berry. But at the dance, Chuck's cousin calls him, saying, "You know that new sound you've been looking for? Well, listen to this." He then proceeds to put the phone towards the music Marty is playing. So, who invented the song? Chuck or Marty? I too have been watching Dark. The Homer Simpson paradox: could Jesus microwave a burrito so hot that he himself could not eat it? That's a riff off of an old paradox. God is so powerful that there is nothing he is unable to do. So then, can God create a rock so heavy that he himself can't lift it? Daddy, I am not sleepy yet. Can you tell me a bedtime paradox? I loved that comic. The Galileo paradox. The sequence of square numbers 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, etc. clearly shows that there are a lot fewer square numbers than there are non-square numbers, as the distance between them gets increasingly longer. But any number can be multiplied by itself and the result of this multiplication is a square number. So it must also be true that there are at least as many square numbers than there are non-square numbers. There is an infinite amount of square numbers, but still more non-square numbers. So over any finite, defined range of 3 or more numbers, there will still be more non-square numbers than square numbers. This one seems to make sense, granted that infinity does not equal infinity. Definitely a brainblaster though. Or maybe I have it all wrong? This thread is a ton of people naming paradoxes without explaining what they are. Mine is probably Zeno's dichotomy paradox, although having a favorite paradox is a weird thing. This one is basically that to reach a certain distance you have to reach halfway first. So if the door is 10 meters away you first have to reach 5 meters, then after that 2.5 meters, then 1.25 and so on, which means you will never reach the door. The other one is the ship of Theseus, also known as Theseus's paradox. Sometimes also known as the axe paradox. The axe version is that if you are given an axe and replace the wooden handle, is it the same axe? What if you then replace the blade? How many times can you repeat this process before the axe is no longer the same axe? Alternatively, the ship paradox is similar in that if you replace every part of the ship, is it the same ship or a different ship? Raises the question of identity. The cool thing about this is that your entire body is made up of a different set of cells every 7 years or so, as cells die. So can you really say you're the same person you were 7 years ago? Zeno's paradox is fun. Then you take calculus and realize it's both completely right and completely wrong. My mom had these 2 little puppies. They were red dachshunds and they were sweet and cute and the biggest ears. They were my favorite paradox. Pinocchio says, "My nose will now grow." What happens? It depends on whatever he believes will happen. If he truly believed his nose would grow, then it would not, because he told what he believed to be the truth. But if he thought it would not grow, or was unsure and wanted to see what would happen, then it would grow, because in his heart he did not believe the things he was saying. A lie is not the opposite of the truth, but rather an attempt to deceive. One can say something factually true and have it be a lie, either because you genuinely believed it to be untrue or because you're using it to imply something that is not true. Swiss cheese paradox. Swiss cheese, as we all know, has holes. Therefore, the more Swiss cheese you have, the more holes you have. However, the more holes you have, the less cheese you have because of it. In conclusion, the more cheese you have, the less cheese you have. Yes, I know it's a joke paradox. I still love it because how stupid it is. This is a neat little one about economics that I've read somewhere. A wealthy businessman stops at a small town and searches for a hotel to rest for the night. He goes to a small dingy establishment. How much for the night? $100, the hotel owner at the reception answers. Okay, here's the money, but I'll have a look at the rooms now. If I don't like any of them, you'll give me my money back and I'll search for something else in this town. Deal, answers the owner. The owner gets the money, and while the businessman is checking the rooms, he runs to the bakery. Business had been slow, he did not have the money to pay the baker for his guest's breakfast bread for some days now, he owed him $100. The baker takes the money from the hotel owner, and runs down the street to the coal retailer. Business had also been slow, he did not have the money to pay for his oven's coal this week. The baker owed the coal retailer $100. The coal retailer takes the money, and runs to the cabaret. Not many people had been buying his coal, he did not have the money to pay for the prostitute's services last night, and she was not happy about that. She was owed $100. The prostitute takes the money, and runs up the street again. She owed $100 to the hotel owner for using his rooms to receive her clients for a couple of nights, but they had not paid her yet, so she was also low on cash. The owner gets the money just in time for the guest to come back from his inspection. I don't like the rooms, give me my money back. And so he does, and the businessman leaves. So, before the businessman comes to town, there's $400 of debt between the town's inhabitants. After he leaves, there's $0 debt, without any value being created or added to the system. Money in equals money out. How's this possible? Because that's how economics works. If you pay off a debt, you didn't lose or gain money, excluding interest, you just broke even on it, again assuming no interest. I don't know if you can call it a paradox. It's labeled as Ronald Opus on Wikipedia. On March 23, 1994, a medical examiner viewed the body of Ronald Opus and concluded that he died from a gunshot wound of the head caused by a shotgun. Investigation to that point had revealed that the decedent had jumped from the top of a 10-story building with the intent to commit suicide. He left a note indicating his despondency. As he passed the 9th floor on the way down, his life was interrupted by a shotgun blast through a window, killing him instantly. Neither the shooter nor the decedent was aware that a safety net had been erected at the 8th floor level to protect some window washers, and that the decedent would most likely not have been able to complete his intent to commit suicide because of this. Ordinarily, a person who starts into motion the events with a suicide intent ultimately commits suicide even though the mechanism might be not what they intended. That he was shot on the way to certain death 9 stories below probably would not change his mode of death from suicide to homicide, but the fact that his suicide intent would not have been achieved under any circumstance caused the medical examiner to feel that he had homicide on his hands. Further investigation led to the discovery that the room on the 9th floor from whence the shotgun blast emanated was occupied by an elderly man and his wife. He was threatening her with the shotgun because of an interspousal spat and became so upset that he could not hold the shotgun straight. Therefore, when he pulled the trigger, he completely missed his wife, and the pellets went through the window, striking the decedent. When one intends to kill subject A but kills subject B in the attempt, one is guilty of the murder of subject B. The old man was confronted with this conclusion, but both he and his wife were adamant in stating that neither knew that the shotgun was loaded. It was the longtime habit of the old man to threaten his wife with an unloaded shotgun. He had no intent to murder her, therefore, the killing of the decedent appeared then to be accident. That is, the gun had been accidentally loaded, but further investigation turned up a witness that their son was seen loading the shotgun approximately 6 weeks prior to the fatal accident. That investigation showed that the mother, the old lady, had cut off her son's financial support, and her son, knowing the propensity of his father to use the shotgun threateningly, loaded the gun with the expectation that the father would shoot his mother. The case now becomes one of murder on the part of the son for the death of Ronald Opus. Now comes the exquisite twist. Further investigation revealed that the son, Ronald Opus himself, had become increasingly despondent over the failure of his attempt to get his mother murdered. This led him to jump off the 10-story building on March 23, only to be killed by a shotgun blast through a 9-story window. The medical examiner closed the case as a suicide. Your mission is don't do this mission. Mission accomplished. Let's crack a cold one. Bootstrap paradox. It's how an information sent back in time creates an endless loop, causing it to lose its point of origin. This was the idea behind the film Predestination. One of the famous lines in the film being, "What came first? The chicken or the egg?" I highly recommend this film to anyone who haven't seen it. How 0.9 repeating is equal to 1. There's lots of different ways to prove it, but the simplest for me is this example. X equals 0.9999. Multiply it by 10, so 10x equals 9.9999. Subtract 1x from 10x or 9.999. 0.9999. Which equals 9, so then 9x equals 9, simplified to x equals 1. I was in denial for a good bit when I first heard of this. My professor did this in class. He also said, you know, 1/9 is 0.111111. And 2/9 is 0.22222. And so on until 9/9, which should be 0.99999. But that is also 1/1, which is just 1. The Song of Storms paradox from Ocarina of Time. You learn a song, the Song of Storms, from a guy who learned it from you when you were a kid, because you went back in time, after you learned from the guy as an adult, then to be the kid who taught the guy who taught you as an adult. Cartoon suns that are drawn wearing sunglasses. What exactly are they protecting their eyes from? Not mine, but I remember a similar question being asked and someone answered with this. Me and my brother were going to the pool. He loudly screamed that the last one to jump in would be gay. He proceeded to beat me to it, but then I realized if I didn't jump in the pool, he would technically be the last one in, making him gay.